It's easy to think. Those moments when hours vanish in minutes are rare accidents, like lightning strikes of inspiration. You sit down, the world fades out, and suddenly time has slipped. But what you're feeling has a name, and it's not magic. It's a state of mind with patterns we can understand, and even steps we can take to invite it back. It's called flow, and once you know how it works, you can find your way back there again and again. In this video, we'll break down what flow really is, the conditions that make it possible, and the simple steps you can take to enter it more often. Because if you've ever felt that state before, you already know. There's nothing else like it. And by the end, you might see why it feels so much deeper than it seems. Every artist knows the paradox. The harder you try to force creativity, the further it slips away. And yet sometimes, without warning, the opposite happens. Time bends in strange ways. Minutes stretch, hours vanish, and effort melts into something effortless. You forget the clock, forget yourself, and all that exists is the work unfolding in front of you, as if it already knows where it's going. That mysterious state isn't an accident. Flow is the state where the boundaries between you and the work dissolve. Psychologists define it as a merging of action and awareness, a complete absorption in the task at hand. In that moment, self-consciousness fades, and the usual voice in your head falls silent. Time no longer moves in straight lines. Minutes can stretch, hours can vanish, and the process itself becomes its own reward. Flow isn't vague or mystical. It's a documented state of mind, and one of the most powerful experiences we can have as creators. And it isn't limited to music or art. Writers feel it when sentences spill out faster than they can type. Painters feel it when brushstrokes seem to guide themselves across the canvas. Athletes call it being in the zone when their bodies move with impossible precision. Gamers know it when hours disappear in what feels like minutes. Even surgeons, climbers, and chess players describe the same state. Flow cuts across disciplines because it isn't about the activity itself. It's about what happens in the mind when challenge and focus meet in the right balance. Flow feels less like doing and more like being carried. Effort melts away, decisions tumble one into the next, and the work unfolds as if it was always waiting there beneath the surface. It's not the grind of forcing something into existence, it's the rare moment when creation feels inevitable. And this isn't just about performance or productivity. It's about how we relate to the work itself. In flow, resistance quiets down. Doubt gives way to clarity. The process stops draining us and starts feeding us, reminding us why we create in the first place. That's why flow feels unforgettable. It isn't just about finishing projects or hitting goals. It's about tasting what it means to be fully present, alive, in the act of making. For a brief moment, the noise of the world falls away, and all that remains is the joy of doing the thing itself. Flow is the state where work becomes play, and play becomes who we are. But flow isn't random. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere and vanish just as suddenly. There are patterns to when it happens, conditions that make it more likely, and choices we can make to open the door to it more often. If flow feels so alive, why does it seem to vanish the moment we go looking for it? One day, it arrives unannounced, and hours disappear in what feels like minutes. The next, no matter how long you sit there, it refuses to show up. It can feel like luck, like a gift you can't control. But it isn't. Flow has a recipe. Certain ingredients come together, and when they do, the state appears almost on its own. Psychologists have found that flow tends to appear when 3 conditions show up. First, the challenge in front of you has to match your level of skill. Not too easy, not too hard. Second, you need a clear goal. Something specific enough to aim your attention. And third, the feedback has to be immediate, so every action you take is answered in real time. When any of these are missing, flow slips away. But when they come together, it's like striking a match. The state ignites almost automatically. The first ingredient in the recipe for flow is balance. The space between boredom and anxiety. When the task is too easy, your mind drifts. You feel restless, distracted, like you're just going through the motions. But when the task is too hard, the opposite happens. You tense up, second guess every move, and frustration takes over. Flow only appears in the middle, where the challenge is just beyond what you can do automatically, but not so far that it feels impossible. That edge is where focus sharpens, where you rise to meet the task, and where time begins to fall away. I learned this the hard way when I first downloaded VCV Rec 2. I had a basic understanding of modular synthesis, so I thought I could stumble around and figure it out. But I made the mistake of downloading every single free module in the library. Suddenly, I was staring at a wall of choices I didn't understand. I didn't even know which modules to pick just to make a simple sound. The challenge completely outweighed my skill, and after a few days of getting nowhere, I gave up. It wasn't until I came back later, this time with guidance, that things shifted. I found Omri Cohen's tutorials on YouTube, and his step-by-step patches gave me just enough structure to understand what I was doing. Once I learned what the modules actually did and how they fit together, the chaos became playable. My skills finally caught up with the challenge, and that's when flow appeared. Some of my favorite songs came out of those sessions, because I could finally follow the thread of ideas instead of fighting to keep up. That's the essence of this balance. If the work is too easy, you drift into boredom. If it's too hard, you drown in anxiety. Flow lives right on the edge between the two, where the challenge is just beyond what you already know, but not so far that it paralyzes you. That's where attention sharpens, where effort feels like momentum, and where hours start to disappear. The second ingredient in the recipe for flow is having a clear goal. Flow doesn't thrive in vagueness. If the task in front of you is just make something good, it's too undefined to hold your attention. But if the goal is specific, write an 8-bar melody in D minor, record 3 takes of a guitar part, or design one patch that only uses a certain set of modules, suddenly you have a target, and that target gives your mind something to aim at. In my own music, I've seen this again and again. If I sit down with no direction, I end up wandering, auditioning sounds, flipping through plugins, chasing half-formed ideas. But if I give myself even the smallest goal, something as simple as write a 4-bar loop at 75 BPM, the work starts to move forward. The clarity of the goal cuts away the noise of endless possibilities. And once I hit that target, the moment usually carries me further than I expected. Flow needs that kind of structure. A goal that's too big or abstract will scatter your focus, but a goal that's concrete and achievable keeps you locked in the moment, ready to follow the thread of what comes next. The third ingredient in the recipe for flow is immediate feedback. Every action you take needs to answer back in real time. In music, you play a note and you hear it instantly. In sports, you move and the ball responds. In writing, the words appear on the page the moment you type them. That quick loop between action and response is what locks your attention in place. One of the reasons I love Eurorack so much is because of that feedback loop. Turning a single knob or patching a new cable can completely reshape the sound coming out of the speakers. Every move produces an immediate response, sometimes subtle, sometimes dramatic, and that back and forth keeps me deeply engaged. It feels less like I'm commanding the system and more like I'm having a conversation with it. But when that loop breaks, flow slips away. Think about lag in an online game. Even a second's delay can ruin your rhythm. The same thing happens in creativity. If every decision means scrolling through menus, second-guessing a dozen options, or waiting for a render to finish, the moment collapses. The mind wanders. The state dissolves. Flow depends on that tight feedback cycle, an unbroken call and response between you and the work. When every move meets you with an answer, attention deepens, time dissolves, and the process begins to carry itself forward. When you put these ingredients together, the right balance between challenge and skill, a clear goal to aim your attention, and immediate feedback from every action you take, flow stops being an accident. It becomes a state you can invite. Miss any one of them and the current slips away. But when all three line up, something clicks. The work stops feeling like work. Time dissolves, and the process begins to move under its own momentum. That's the recipe for flow. But even knowing the recipe isn't enough. The real question is how we create the conditions for it to actually appear. Knowing the recipe for flow is one thing. Living it is another. Flow doesn't appear just because we want it to. It shows up when we create the right conditions and then step forward into them. And that means we can do more than wait around, hoping for inspiration. We can prepare the ground, strike the match, and give ourselves the best chance for the spark to catch. The quickest way to smother flow is with friction. Every extra step, digging through cables, scrolling through menus, hunting down a sound, pulls you further from the moment you're trying to reach. Flow needs momentum, and momentum can't build if you're stuck setting up. That's why it helps to prepare the ground before you even start. For me, that means keeping DAW templates ready, with my usual tracks and instruments already in place. It means leaving gear patched in, so the instant I sit down, I can make sound without thinking. It means clearing the desk, so my focus doesn't scatter. None of these things guarantee flow, but they remove the obstacles that keep it from starting. The less resistance between intention and action, the faster the spark can catch. Flow doesn't begin with a masterpiece. It begins with something small enough to finish. When the goal is too big, like write a whole song, finish the mix, make something good, it creates pressure instead of momentum. But if the target is small and specific, you give yourself permission to begin. Write an 8-bar loop, record 3 takes of a guitar riff, design one patch, and see what happens. Every time I narrow the target, the work feels lighter. I don't sit down to make something perfect. I sit down to make something possible. And once that tiny target is hit, something strange happens. The next step reveals itself. A loop becomes a verse. A verse points towards the chorus. A patch blossoms into a song. Flow feeds on progress, and progress begins with the smallest possible step. Once the ground is clear and the target is small, the next step is to light the spark with ritual. Flow doesn't usually arrive the second you sit down. It needs an on-ramp, a way to ease your mind and body into the work. Sometimes that means something physical, like strumming the guitar without judgment, or just running your hands across the knobs and faders, letting touch itself remind you where you are. Other times it's sensory, lighting a candle or incense so the air smells the same each time you create, or slipping on headphones even before you press play, shutting out the outside world with that single gesture. It can also be creative in the smallest sense. 10 minutes of stream of consciousness writing, spilling everything in your head onto paper until the noise quiets down. Or 2 minutes of free improv. No rules, no recording, just sound making until ideas loosen up. And for me, even the environment can be a part of the ritual. Clearing the desk is a reset before each session. Placing one object, a stone, a figurine, a photo, on the table is a reminder that this moment is set apart from the rest of life. The point isn't which ritual you choose, it's that you choose one. A familiar doorway you can step through every time you begin. Ritual tells your mind, this is the moment. This is where flow begins. Flow is fragile, and one of the easiest ways to break it is by widening the channel too far. Multitasking scatters attention before it has a chance to deepen. That's why when I sit down to create, I try to give myself only one lane at a time. If I'm shaping a melody, I don't chase drum samples. If I'm recording guitar, I don't start mixing. The channel has to stay narrow so momentum can build. But narrowing the channel doesn't mean ignoring ideas. Flow thrives when the thread is unbroken. So I keep a notebook beside me and offload every stray thought onto the page. Try a slower tempo, double the bass line, switch to minor in bar 9. Writing it down means I don't lose the idea, but I don't lose the moment either. Flow isn't about having fewer ideas. It's about protecting the one you're following, long enough for it to carry you forward. The last spark I use is a simple contract with myself. 10 minutes. I promise I'll give the work 10 minutes of focus, and if nothing catches, I'm free to walk away. It sounds almost too small to matter, but lowering the barrier is what makes it possible to begin. Most of the time, 10 minutes is all it takes. Once you've started, the thread pulls you further than you planned. A loop grows into a verse. A verse points toward a chorus. And before long, an hour has vanished. But if nothing happens, you've still kept the promise. You showed up. You tried. And tomorrow the door is easier to open again. Flow rarely arrives when you demand it. But when you strike the match with a commitment that small, you give it a chance to catch. Flow doesn't wait for permission. It waits for a signal. Every small action, clearing the space, lighting a candle, setting a tiny goal, giving yourself 10 quiet minutes, is a spark struck against the dark. Most will fade, but sometimes one catches, and the fire builds on its own. The The truth is, you can't force flow any more than you can force a flame to burn. You can only prepare the ground, light the match, and protect it long enough for the fire to take. And once it does, the question becomes something else entirely. How do you keep it alive? Flow never announces when it's about to leave. One moment you're inside it, time suspended, the work unfolding on its own, and the next it's gone. A notification flashes, a thought intrudes, a single wrong move, and suddenly you're outside the moment, staring at the screen, wondering where it went. Flow is fragile like that. It burns bright, but it needs care to stay lit. Keeping it alive isn't about holding on tighter. It's about protecting the space around it so it can keep burning. Once flow begins, your only job is to protect it. Every distraction, every click, every second of hesitation pulls at the thread until it unravels. The moment you step outside the work to question it, the spell breaks. That's why I keep a notebook beside me whenever I'm creating. When a side idea shows up, a new sound to try, a lyric to change later, I write it down and keep going. I don't follow it. I don't argue with it. I just let it wait its turn. Flow rewards devotion. The more you stay with the thread you're pulling, the more it reveals. But once you start tugging at a dozen different directions, it slips through your fingers. Protecting the thread isn't about discipline in the usual sense. It's about trust. Trust that if the idea is real, it will still be there when you return to it. And trust that the best thing you can do for the work is to stay inside it long enough for it to finish speaking. The easiest way to stay in flow is to stay in conversation with the work. Flow depends on rhythm, a constant back and forth between action and response. Every small cycle of adjustment keeps attention alive. In music, that might mean looping a short section, making one tiny change, and listening for how it shifts the feel. In writing, it could be revising a single sentence and reading it aloud before moving on. The point isn't perfection, it's engagement. When the feedback loop is tight, you never drift far from the moment. You play, the sound answers, you react, and the process becomes its own kind of dialogue. It's less about control and more about listening. As long as the work keeps answering you, flow keeps going. No matter how deep you are in it, flow will break. A moment of distraction, a sudden noise, a single self-critical thought, and just like that, the current fades. It's easy to take that as failure, but it isn't. Flow isn't a trance you lose, it's a state you can return to. What matters is how you reset. When I feel myself slipping out of it, I stop and take a breath. In for 4 and out for 6. Then touch something textured. The wood of my desk, the strings of my guitar, the edge of a fader. It's a physical reminder that I'm still here, still grounded. Sometimes I'll stand, stretch, walk around the room, and leave a small breadcrumb before I step away. A note in my pad, a marker in the session, one clear instruction for where to pick up when I return. Flow ends. That's part of it. But ending doesn't mean losing. If you know how to reset, you can find your way back every time. One of the hardest lessons in flow is knowing when to stop. It's tempting to keep pushing once everything's moving, to stay up another hour, chase one more idea, see how far the current will take you. But flow isn't endless, and the deeper you go, the easier it is to cross the line from energy into exhaustion. The trick is to stop while the momentum is still alive. Writers like Hemingway used to end their day mid-sentence so they know exactly where to begin the next one. Musicians can do the same. Leave a loop unfinished, a phrase unresolved, a note in the session that says, "Start here." When you stop on a win, you don't close the door on flow. You leave it cracked open. Ending on a high point makes it easier to come back tomorrow, because part of you is still inside the work. That's what keeps the fire burning. Not draining yourself in one blaze, but tending the flame so it's there when you return. Flow begins as a spark, but staying there is the art of tending the fire. It's not about force, it's about presence. Protect the thread, listen to the feedback, reset when it breaks, and leave the work before the flame burns out. Every time you return, the ember is still there, waiting. The more we learn to keep that fire alive, the more we start to notice something else. That flow isn't only about the work at all. There's something it shows us about ourselves, hidden inside the quiet of that state. There's a moment in every deep session where the boundary between you and the work begins to blur. The hands move, but it doesn't feel like you're the one moving them. The sound unfolds, the shapes arrange themselves, and the part of you that is usually steering just disappears. You're still there, but not as a person trying to make something. More like a point of awareness that the music is passing through. It's hard to describe, but in that space, creation doesn't feel like something you do. It feels like something that happens through you. In moments like that, it becomes clear that what we call the self isn't a solid thing at all. It's a process, a living intersection of countless smaller processes happening all at once. Breath and heartbeat, memory and sound, emotion and perception. All of it moving together, converging into a pattern we temporarily call me. When you enter flow, that pattern loosens. The boundaries between what's inside and what's outside start to fade. You stop feeling like a separate observer looking out at the world and start feeling like a part of the same movement that's shaping everything. Awareness doesn't disappear, it expands. It's like awareness uncoils and flows outward, spilling into everything it once thought was outside itself, as if the self exhales and what's left is the quiet rhythm of the world breathing through you. What we mistake for the self might just be the friction between processes, the meeting point where inner and outer worlds brush against each other. Every thought, every sound, every feeling is a part of a larger movement. And where those movements collide, a pattern emerges. That pattern is what we recognize as me. The illusion of solidity comes from that constant contact, like two rivers pressing against each other and creating a visible line on the water's surface. But if you zoom in, there's no fixed edge at all, just motion meeting motion. Flow softens that boundary. The friction dissolves into movement, and the image of the self, the musician, the thinker, the person behind the work, disappears back into the current. In that state, creation feels effortless because the barrier between the one who creates and what's being created has fallen away. It's not the self making art. It's the universe remembering itself through your hands, turning experience into memory, if only for a moment, before it drifts back into motion. In flow, we glimpse something vast, reflected in something small. Every creative act, every brushstroke, phrase, or melody is a miniature version of the same process that moves galaxies and rivers, tides and heartbeats. We are microcosms of that motion, the universe folding in on itself to look inward for a moment. When we create, it isn't separate from that cosmic unfolding. It is that unfolding, just happening on a human scale. The same forces that spin planets into orbit are the ones that pull a chord progression into being. The same gravity that binds stars together pulls ideas toward coherence. In flow, those scales briefly align. The personal and the universal become the same motion, and the same energy turning itself over again and again. As form and feeling, sound and silence. For a moment, the universe recognizes itself through our awareness, and in doing so, remembers that it was never separate. Eventually, the current slows. The edges of the self start to reappear. Faint outlines at first, then sharper, more familiar. You realize the session has ended, that you come back to the room, to the body, to the boundaries that shape your ordinary life. But something subtle has changed. You're not quite the same person who sat down to begin. Every time you enter flow, something of that larger movement leaves an imprint on you. It's as if you've carried a fragment of that wider consciousness back across the threshold. The feeling of what it's like to be both creator and creation at once. The song, the painting, the sentence left on the page. These are the residue of that crossing. Flow doesn't erase the self. It refines it. It sends you back into your life with a trace of the infinite still clinging to your hands. Maybe that's what flow really is. The place where creation remembers it's still happening. Not something we control, but something we step into for a little while. The same current that moves through sound and color moves through us, shaping and being shaped, forming and dissolving. When we lose the self in that current, we catch a glimpse of what we've always been. Processes intertwining, awareness folding into matter and back again. The universe turning itself into memory through the simple act of being. And when we return, we carry that echo. We sit down again tomorrow, strike the match, light the spark, and for a brief moment, the boundary fades once more. Because flow never really ends. It just waits for the next time we forget ourselves enough to find. If this video spoke to you, it helps more than you know to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. It's a small thing, but it keeps this channel alive and helps these ideas find new ears. If you want to see future essays early, before they go public, you can join the Patreon. Supporters there get access a week ahead, along with behind-the-scenes notes and reflections from each video. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for being part of this quiet space. I'll see you in the next one.